So, good afternoon po everyone. So, yung i-discuss natin naman ngayon po is yung types of association. So, meron po tayong spurious association, indirect, direct, at direct association. So, under direct association po, meron po tayong one-to-one causal association at multifactorial causation. So sa spurious association po, so this is an association which appear due to improper comparison. So yung yung spurious association natin ay kapag may nakita tayong correlation or ugnayan sa pagitan ng ating dalawang variable, pero hindi ito totoo or wala silang causation. So maaari dahil lang ito sa ibang factor o ibang factor na nakakaapekto sa pareho nating variable. So for example, uh, a study finds a correlation between the amount of coffee consumed and lung cancer rates. So however, this could be spurious if both coffee drinking and lung cancer are associated with smoking. So yung smoking, yung true cause ng lung cancer, hindi yung coffee itself. So next po is yung ating indirect association. So it is a statistical association between a characteristic of interest and a disease due to the presence of another factor or yung tinatawag nating confounding variable. So ano nga po ba yung confounding variable natin? So Yung confa- yung confounding variable natin ay isang variable na hindi natin sinasadya na makasama dun sa ating analysis. Pero may effect siya dun sa pareho nating independent variable at dependent variable. So dahil dito nagiging parang nahihirapan tayo malaman kung may correlation or may ugnayan yung independent at dependent variable natin kung totoo ba yung association nila or yung causation nila. So naapektuhan yung ating study dito. So yung confounding variable natin is an extra variable that was not accounted for. So they can ruin an experiment and give useless result. So they can suggest there is a correlation when in fact there isn't. They can even introduce bias. So that's why it is important to know what one is and how to avoid getting them into our experiment in the first place. So a confounding variable can have a hidden effect on experiment outcome. So dito sa example natin, so isipin natin dito nag-examine tayo, nag
Layuit na, kasi ka ako na susunod.
so so nag-examine tayo ng correlation ng pag-inom ng kape at yung pagkakaroon ng heart disease. So kung hindi natin isasama yung smoking bilang isang variable, magiging confounder ito kasi yung smoking ay may effect din siya or nagkokos din siya sa nagkokos siya ng heart disease. At saka marami ding taong umiinom ng kape ay kadalasan naninigarilyo rin sila or pinagsasabay nila. So kaya yung ugnayan ng kape at heart disease ay uh, maaring maapektuhan ng smoking at maaring magmukhang may ugnayan kahit wala naman siya. So sa madaling salita, yung ating confounding variable ay nakakaapekto sa resulta ng ating study at nagbibigay ng maling impression sa ating causality. Kaya mahalaga na kontrolin or isama ito sa ating analysis para makuha yung tamang ugnayan. So sa ating direct association naman po, ah, kapag yung ating dalawang variable ay may direct na ugnayan sa isa't isa. So walang wala siyang third variable na wala siyang third variable. So dito sa figure na to, itong ating A, yung causal, siya yung direct direct association kasi walang walang nag-exist na third variable. While itong B, ito makikita natin may third variable siya kaya due to confounding. So next one is yung ating under sa direct association yung tinatawag nating one-to-one causal association. So it is a type of relationship where one cause directly leads to one effect with no other factors or variables involved. So in other words, one thing is the sole cause of another thing. So next po is yung ating multifactorial causation. So it is a type of relationship where multiple factors or causes came together to produce a result or disease. In other words, it's not just one thing that causes the outcome, but a combination of different factors that contribute to the effect. Conditions or disease with multifactorial causation usually involve a mix of genetic, environmental, and lifestyle factors. So, punta naman po tayo dito sa Hill's guidelines for assessing causation. So, si Sir Austin Bradford Hill is a prominent epidemiologist, proposed 9 guidelines in 1965 to aid in determining whether observed association are causal. So these guidelines serves as valuable tools for epidemiologists, though they are not meant to be rigid criteria. Instead, they offer imperfect guidance to assess various aspects of an association before drawing conclusion about causality. So yung first po natin is yung strength of association. Excuse me. Kung stronger yung ating association sa pagitan ng ating dalawang variable, so mas mataas yung possibility na may causal relationship sila. So halimbawa, kung yung pag-increase ng isang risk factor ay nagdudulot sa pag-increase ng sakit, so it is more likely to be the cause. So dito sa example, a strong association between smoking and lung cancer makes smoking a likely cause of the disease. So next naman po is yung ating consistency. So kung yung mga result natin ay pare-pareho sa iba't ibang studies or situation, nagpapakita to na may causal relationship sila. So for example, multiple studies in different countries showing a link between smoking and lung cancer would support the idea that smoking causes lung cancer. So next po yung specificity. So kung yung isang cause ay nagdudulot lang ng isang particular na effect, so mas stronger yung ating argument na may causal relationship sila. So for example, kung ang isang virus ay nagdudulot lang ng isang uri ng sakit, so mas madali itong ma-assert na may cause and effect relationship sila. So another example, if smoking primarily causes lung cancer and not other unrelated disease, it would be more suggestive of a causal link. So next po is yung ating temporality. So dito naman po dapat mangyari muna yung cause bago yung ating effect. So example, if exposure to a virus precede the onset of a disease, it supports the idea that the virus may be a cause of the disease. Next po is yung ating biological gradient. So kung meron naman tayong dose-response relationship, ibig sabihin habang tumataas yung ating exposure sa isang risk factor, tumataas din yung possibility ng effect nito. So nagpapakita lang siya na may causal relationship sila. So yung example dito, the more cigarettes a person smoke per day, the higher their risk of developing lung cancer. So this increase the risk with higher levels of exposure suggests a causal link. So yung pang number 6 natin is yung plausibility. So dito naman dapat meron namang scientific explanation kung paano nagkaroon ng effect mula dun sa cause. So kung merong logic na explanation, mas mapapatunayan natin yung causation nila. So example, smoking causes lung cancer because it leads to genetic mutation in lung cells, which we understand through biological mechanism. So dito naman po sa coherence, yung mga findings natin, dapat nag-a-align sila sa existing knowledge not sa about biology or at epidemiology. Dapat nag-a-align sila. So example, if smoking causes lung cancer, this should be consistent with our understanding of how cancer develops from repeated damage to lung tissue over time. So yung experiment, so if it is possible to intervene or conduct experiment that demonstrate that removing the cause leads to a reduction in the effect, this would provide strong evidence for causality. This criterion is more easily applied in experimental setting like yung randomized controlled trials natin. So for example, yung public health interventions that reduce smoking rates lead to lower lung cancer rates, supporting the idea that smoking causes lung cancer. So yung last po natin is yung analogy. So if a similar relationship has been established between two other factors, this can strengthen the argument that observed relationship is causal. If a known cause leads to a known effect in one context, this might suggest a similar causality in another context. So for example, if exposure to a particular chemical causes lung disease in workers and a similar chemical exposure causes similar lung damage in another group, this might suggest that the second chemical also causes lung disease. So, ibibigay ko na po sa next presenter namin yung
Good
Thank you,
afternoon
Sir
po.
JP. Yeah, next presenter is Miss Jamaica Coronda.
In epidemiological research, understanding the difference between risk factors and causes is essential for interpreting study results and making public health recommendations. Sir, next naman. Thank you. In terms of evidence of relationship, a risk factor establishes an association between an exposure and health outcome, but does not prove the exposure directly causes the disease. Example po ng mga risk factor is the lifestyle, yung age po natin, or genetics, or family history. Another example nito is a family history of heart disease has a higher likelihood of developing the disease, but does not confirm that the family history is direct cause, but indicates a greater risk. Tapos, sa cause naman po is demonstrated through strong, consistent, and biologically plausible that an exposure directly leads to the health outcome. Establishing causality typically involves consistency of findings, strength of association, temporarily the precedes the outcome, and the biological mechanism, which is example po ng causative agents such as the bacteria. A bacteria named H. pylori leading cause to peptic ulcer, or exposure to ionizing agent like asbestos directly leading to mesothelioma. Next naman, sir. In terms of distinction between the risk factors and causes has an important implication in public health strategies. Risk factors identifying and modifying. Risk factors help reduce the likelihood of the disease. Even the factors themselves are not directly caused. For example po is advising population to reduce salt intake can help lower the risk of hypertension and cardiovascular disease. Oo nga po, naririnig ko rin po pag nag-check up yung mga doctors namin na one of their diet na sinasabi is iwasan ang mamaalat na pagkain. This will help to minimize the burden of the disease by managing the factors to increase the susceptibility. While once cause is identified, eliminating or controlling the cause can prevent the disease entirely. Example po nito is yung mga vaccination and immunization programs of DOH targeted the causal pathogens of disease, example sa measles and polio to eradicate them. Mukhang effective naman po to kasi yung mga based on the status ng measles natin is and polio is mukhang bumababa na po at nagiging effective po. Next po, in terms of practical distinction, risk factor often multifactorial and context dependence. For example, obesity is a risk factor for heart disease, but it doesn't cause heart disease in everyone. And other factors may contribute also like genetics and like lifestyle. Causes are typically more specific and deterministic. For instance, exposure to the HIV virus is the direct cause of AIDS, as eliminating the virus in a person prevents the disease from progressing. Pero alam naman natin na hindi totally eliminate yung virus ng HIV. Instead, nagtitake lang sila ng retroviral para bumaba po yung viral load. Next po. Magbibigay po ako these are the examples which is illustrating the difference ng smoke, kung paano po yung relation ng risk factor at saka ng cause. Smoking is the risk factor of lung cancer. Smoking is associated with significant increase in the likelihood of developing lung cancer, but not everyone who smokes will get the disease. And some people who don't smoke develop the disease due to factors like second-hand smoke or genetic susceptibility. Paano naman po nag-occur yung lung cancer? The cause of lung cancer is typically genetic mutation in lung cells, which is directly induced by carcinogen found in tobacco smoke. This carcinogen causes DNA damage, leads to uncontrolled cell growth. Thus, the actual cause of lung cancer is accumulation of mutations due to the exposure to carcinogens such as those found in cigarettes. Kung mapapansin niyo po, yung smoking lang po is just a linking way in order to activate the cause of the lung cancer. Next po. Another example, wait lang sir. Pabalik nga po. Sorry. Another example is obesity and type 2 diabetes. Obesity is the risk factor for type 2 diabetes. People who are obese have higher likelihood of developing insulin resistance, which is the precursor or activator to type 2 diabetes. However, not all obese individuals will develop diabetes, and some individuals who are not obese can still get diabetes due to other factors like genetic or metabolic disorders. Ngayon, yung cause po ng diabetes is insulin resistance, where the body cells does not respond properly to insulin, leading to high blood sugar levels. In many cases, this insulin resistance is triggered by excessive fat in the body, yung mga obese po, which leading to the blockage of insulin signaling pathways. So the cause of type 2 diabetes is the biological process in insulin resistance, while the obesity is the major risk factor. Yun nga po ulit, yung obesity yung nag-link ng cause po ng type 2 diabetes. Okay, the role of risk factors guide us in identifying population at higher risk and implementing preventive measures, while causes offer definitive targets for disease prevention and treatment. Okay, let's go. Nasa last objective na po tayo, which is describe the key elements of the sufficient component cause model. A sufficient component cost model in 1976, a scientist named Ken Rothman proposed a conceptual model of causation known as sufficient component cost model. This model is similar with the web causation theory, but more developed in the sense that it simultaneously provides a general model for the conditions necessary to the cause and prevention of disease in single individual and for the epidemiological study of the cause of disease among groups of individuals. Let's now discuss the key elements of the model. The first one is the sufficient cause model, a complete set of factors that, when present together, inevitably lead to occurrence of the disease or outcome. Mamaya po, mapapakita po ako ng tabulation kung ano po yung difference po ng mga causes. The second one is the component cause, which is an individual factor or event that contributes to the occurrence of disease when combined with other component causes. And lastly, the necessary cause, which is a component cause that must be present in every instance of the disease or outcome. Without it, the disease will not occur. Thank you, sir. Next naman. Okay, and for example, yung may lung cancer, tapos may apat po tayong risk factor, which is heavy smoking, occupation, which is mga trabaho na matataas ang radiation content niya, and environmental, which is the industrial hazard, tsaka yung genetic predisposition. Yung apat po na risk factor natin, pag pinagsama-sama, ito po yung sufficient cause. And yung individual factors po, yun yung tinatawag nating component cause. And sa necessary cause po, pa-next naman, sir. Sa necessary cause, kung may mapapansin niyo po na may tatlong sufficient cause. Sufficient cause 1, sufficient cause 2, and sufficient cause 3. Each sufficient, may 5 po silang component cause, which is A hanggang J po yung component cause na meron tayo. At saka mapapansin niyo po na yung mga component cause na iba is present din sa ibang sufficient cause. Pero yung component A is present sa tatlong sufficient cause, which is the tinatawag nating necessary cause in order to occur the disease. Okay, let's now go with the types of causal relationship. In causal relation, bago natin i-discuss ang types of causal relationship, it can be direct causation or indirect causation. Pag sinabi nating direct causation, a factor leads to disease without immediate steps. While the indirect causation involves a factor causing disease through intermediate steps which are often present in human biological process. Kagaya nung na-discuss kanina ni Sir, yung direct causation, hindi na kailangan ng mga other factors. Kunwari, si Mycobacterium tuberculosis, nag-cause na rin, hindi na niya kailangan ng other factors para mag-cause ng TB. While yung indirect causation, kailangan pa ng other factors para mag-cause ng disease. Okay? Next naman, sir. Ito po siya. Sige, sir. Next. Thank you. The first type is the necessary and sufficient. A factor is both necessary and sufficient for disease development. Without the factor, the disease never occurs. Necessary, which is kailangan, and its presence, the disease always occurs, which is sufficient. Sapat at kailangan. Example po nito is yung bacteria na nag-focus ng TB, si Mycobacterium, in order to occur the disease, yung TB nga po. Next po. The second one is the necessary but not sufficient. Here, each factor is necessary but not sufficient alone to cause the disease. Kailangan pero hindi sapat. Dito po, kailangan natin ng multiple factors para mag-occur yung disease. For example, sa lung cancer, may hindi lang po isang factor ang kailangan. Example is yung heavy smoking, genetic predisposition, and environmental factors. Pag pinagsama-sama po ito, pwede pong mag-occur yung lung cancer. Next po. The third is sufficient but not necessary. In this model, a factor alone can cause the disease, but other factors acting alone can also lead to disease. Sapat pero hindi kailangan. Kung mapapansin niyo po yung picture, any of the factor can lead to disease. But not of them are required in order the disease to occur. Pwede pong si factor A or factor B or factor C ay factors na nag-cause ng disease. And last, neither sufficient nor necessary. This complex model suggests that a factor by itself is neither sufficient nor necessary to cause disease. Hindi kailangan at hindi sapat. Kung mapapansin niyo po yung picture, pinagsama-samang factors, any of them pwedeng mag-occur sa disease. In this case, none of these factors alone or any combination guarantee the development. Rather, they may each contribute to an individual overall risk, but the disease may still not manifest. Multiple factors may contribute to the risk, but they do so in many ways that does not guarantee the disease development. Yun lang po. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you so much, Group 5. Sir, Ma'am Jam, kasama mo si
Ma'am?
Sir John Paul Pagadu. Sino yung first na nag-present last meeting?
Si Ma'am Charisma Jem Cortez, ma'am.